Imagine the idea of having a small bearded man skulking around your house at night, watching you while you sleep, and then waking up and unexpectedly finding him caressing your face. Creepy? What if he was there as a protector? What if he could prophesy your future? Let's have a deeper look into the folklore surrounding the Domovoi. Belief in the Domovoi persisted in Slavic countries until at least the 19th or even the 20th century, despite efforts by Christianity to vilify these creatures, typical, labelling them as demonic entities. Complete eradication of this belief was not achieved. In Slavic religious tradition, the Domovoi is a household spirit, and all rural dwellings were believed to be inhabited by one of these entities. These creatures are perceived as the soul of a deceased family member, or sometimes representative of all ancestors, intertwining the belief in Domovoi with traditions of ancestor worship. The prevalent depiction of the Domovoi is that of a dwarf-like elderly figure, resembling a 5-year-old boy in size, adorned in well-fitted garments and a beard. While regional variations exist in terms of hair colour and attire, the Domovoi is generally depicted in vibrant clothing and traditional lapti shoes. Notably, its distinctive features include yellow hair, luminous eyes, and notably hairy palms and soles of the feet. The Domovoi's shape-shifting abilities are noteworthy. It can assume the form of deceased ancestors, the current household head, or even family pets. Common animal forms include dogs, cats, rats, frogs, livestock animals, and snakes. Traditionally, two distinct types of Domovoi are recognised: the household Domovoi and the Domovoi. While the former resides within the confines of the home, the latter, the Domovoi, inhabits the external areas like yards or gardens. They are generally perceived as less amiable and potentially more perilous than the household Domovoi, especially posing threats to animals with white fur. But there isn't much information I could find denoting on why they had such an aversion. The Domovoi typically remains concealed from human view, favouring obscure corners of a household, particularly those near the stove or hearth. Given its preference, householders were very cautious not to disturb the remnants of a smouldering fire, ensuring their ancestors remained undisturbed beneath the grate. Folklore ascribes two primary roles to the Domovoi: fostering domestic prosperity and foretelling the future. In the agrarian societies of rural Russia, Ukraine and Belarus, these functions held immense significance. Events like crop failures or unanticipated frosts posed existential threats, hence sign of domestic well-being such as bountiful harvests, financial security, familial harmony and individual successes indicated a contented Domovoi. The spirit shared in the family's joys and sorrows, often exerting considerable effort to maintain household order and protect against external malevolent entities. Contrary to contemporary ghostly conceptions, the Domovoi didn't haunt homes out of malevolence, but it's imperative to maintain a harmonious relationship with them to avoid potential mischief or displeasure. The Domovoi is sensitive to perceived internal disruptions. Negligence in household duties, laziness, or disregard for responsibilities could incite its ire. Yet, even its most mischievous acts like breaking dishes or spoiling milk, the Domovoi's intentions weren't usually malicious. Rather, it is often perceived as a playful trickster. Sounds brilliant, right? Your own personal butler and oracle to boot. However, when angered or neglected, its retaliations could lead to more severe actions, including physical harm to household members. There's even accounts of Domovoi suffocating people in their beds, so I'm not too convinced that it's quite in the ballpark of "it's just a prank, bro." Now, this description might sound very familiar to my British brethren. Its appearance and behaviours are very similar to that of the brownie. Not the delicious chocolate confectionery, and not the organisation of Girl Scouts, although this is where their name is derived in Julia Ewing's book The Brownies, but another creature from Scottish folklore. In fact, these little fellas pop up all over the place under different pseudonyms with increasingly difficult names to pronounce. There's the Silkies of the English countryside, the Hobbs of Yorkshire, the Fenedry of the Isle of Man, the Bewback of Wales, and this one which I'm definitely going to butcher if I try and pronounce, all of which share a striking resemblance to our bearded housekeeper. While there are similarities between the Domovoi and the Brownie, or any of these others, it's also essential to note that each entity is deeply rooted in its unique cultural context, reflecting the distinct histories and traditions of the Slavic and Celtic British cultures respectively. The Domovoi's secondary significant function lies in its prophetic capabilities. Every action or manifestation of the Domovoi is perceived as an omen, signalling forthcoming events, either auspicious or ominous. For instance, manifestations like laughter, dancing or singing by the Domovoi are deemed favourable signs. Conversely, occurrences such as eerie sounds, sudden extinguishing of candles, or even setting eyes on the Domovoi directly are viewed as portents of adversity. Given the Domovoi's versatile nature and ability to adopt various forms, its expressions like laughter or song might resemble that of ancestral voices. However, more subtle indications of its presence often manifest, such as the faint sound of footsteps or inexplicable household item movements. In its nocturnal wanderings, the Domovoi is known to emerge only when the household is in slumber. It's said to caress sleepers' faces with its hairy hands, or even braid a man's beard. The nature of these nocturnal touches, whether warm and gentle or cold and prickly, serves as indicators of forthcoming fortune or adversity, respectively. And if your household pets were displaying unusual nocturnal behaviour, that could also be explained as playing with the Domovoi. Before significant calamities like wars or epidemics or fires, the Domovoi vacates the home, congregating in meadows to mourn. They can also be quite specific with their premonitions. Gestures akin to strumming a guitar signifies an upcoming wedding. However, sightings of the Domovoi extinguishing flames or its mournful cries at night are harbingers of imminent death, often signalling the impending demise of the household head. As if he wasn't already enough of a pain in the arse, the Domovoi is a sensitive spirit that requires appeasement through regular tributes. Offerings like miniature cloaks concealed beneath the house's floor or dinner remnants are customary gifts to maintain its goodwill. However, on March the 30th, randomly, the Domovoi's demeanour shifts to malevolent, requiring appeasement with specific foods such as small cakes or pots of stewed grain. Much like ancestral spirits or pagan deities, the Domovoi received regular offerings. A prevalent tribute was kasha, a popular Eastern European dish consisting primarily of oatmeal. Think of it as porridge. Beyond kasha, offerings extend to tobacco, incense, juniper berries and lapti shoes, a token for the Domovoi's nocturnal vigilance over the premises and livestock. Under routine circumstances, a ritualised offering consisting of bread sprinkled with salt and enveloped in a white cloth is presented in communal areas. As this tribute is offered, kin members bow towards each cardinal direction, uttering prayers dedicated to the Domovoi. In instances of heightened displeasure, proprietary measures escalated. This included sacrificing a rooster at midnight and anointing the residents' nooks and corners with the bird's blood. A quote from Thomas Stevens in the book Through Russia on a Mustang says, "When the people are asleep, he issues forth and conducts himself amicably, or otherwise according to the humour he happens to be in. The Domovoi is mischievous as a monkey, and like that animal, is inclined to fly into a passion at very short notice if he is not satisfied with his surroundings and treatment. Many peasant families, after eating supper, always leave a portion of food on the table for the Domovoi, who would otherwise consider himself ill-treated and disturb their sleep by pounding on the table with his fist." The Domovoi's association with a dwelling is profound, making specific rituals essential when families transition to a new residence. When relocating to a newly constructed home, it's customary to conduct sacrifices to invite the Domovoi's presence. Historically, bast shoes served as vessels to transport the Domovoi, a tradition now often symbolised using a slipper. Upon completion of a new home, the eldest family member would be the first to enter. This act symbolises the imminent transition of this individual into the role of the Domovoi upon their passing. Conversely, when families relocated, they would transfer the hearth's ashes from their previous home, symbolising continuity. Upon reaching the new dwelling, they'd exclaim, "Welcome, grandfather, to the new." If a residence was deserted or even destroyed, the Domovoi would persist, awaiting the next occupants and deciding whether to embrace or reject them. Morris Baring from The Mainsprings of Russia writes, "The Domovoi in Russia is merely supposed to inhabit houses. I do not think he is ever suspected of working. He is good-natured but capricious. Each house has its goblin. He sits in the corner, underground. If you move from one house to another, you must give notice to the goblin and summon him to come with you. If you forget to do this, the goblin will be offended and stay where he is and show marked hostility to the Domovoi bought by a new tenant. The two goblins will fight, china and furniture will be broken, and this will go on until the first householder comes and invites the goblin to his new house. Then everything will be alright once more. Not only do they sound like they require constant attention and pandering, but they're incredibly needy too. The Russian tradition of sitting on the lane, where individuals pause in silence for a brief moment before embarking on a lengthy journey, has ties to the Domovoi legend. According to this belief, the Domovoi dislike solitude. Hence, inhabitants employ a ruse to placate the Domovoi. By feigning they won't be absent for an extended period, they aim to assure the spirit and prevent any potential disruptions in their absence. These days, it's unlikely you'll find many people who would attest to the validity of these entities, but traditions with links to the myth of the Domovoi still persevere. You're much more likely to find them in the form of statuettes crafted from clay or stone, positioned in niches near an entrance or atop oven mantelpieces. It's easy now to explain away these beliefs in modern times, the bumps in the night being creaky houses, the bowls of porridge being eaten by rats or rodents, death by suffocation being a malicious spouse. But in a time where reassurance was sought through spiritual means and appeasement of higher powers, it seems that generally the Domovoi prompted good familial habits and was seen as a friend rather than a foe. The Domovoi's ability to assume the likeness of deceased loved ones may reflect a deep-seated human longing to reconnect with the departed. This betrayal underscores the profound emotional impact of loss and the desire to see a family face once more. The lore surrounding the Domovoi presents a rich tapestry of a multifaceted household spirit. It embodies roles as diverse as a home's guardian, an ancestral protector, a master of disguise, a seer guiding domestic harmony and prosperity, and a spirit that accompanies its family but strictly only on invitation. The enduring presence of the Domovoi in Slavic folklore underscores its profound significance in their historical pagan cosmology.